Welcome to Lamplight, a podcast with insightful messages and conversations by real people pursuing hope and change. Before we get started, please be aware that this episode discusses the sensitive topics of abuse and suicide, which may be distressing to some listeners. If these topics are difficult for you, we encourage you to exercise caution or choose another Lamplight talk. Have you ever wondered if your friendship matters? Kari Carroll bravely recounts her journey through childhood trauma and the tragic loss of loved ones. Yet these experiences underscore her faith in God, which has provided her with unwavering strength. This story demonstrates the significance friends can make and how having a community matters. As you listen, consider the profound difference we can make by being present for others and praying for them, especially when they are struggling to do so themselves.
On August 26, 1974, if you do the math, yes, I'm old, in Mankato, Minnesota, a little girl was born to Jim and Linda Hicks. I am that little girl. My birth was a very exciting one. My mom started to hemorrhage, and both of us almost died. Thankfully, there was a new doctor on duty. The doctor that was supposed to deliver me, his foster daughter had actually gotten killed in a car accident the day before I was born, so he was not able to be at my birth. And for that, my mom is actually grateful because she feels that the new doctor that was on was a new doctor and panicked and maybe got help a little bit earlier than the other doctor would have and saved both of our lives. I was born into a family of 3 brothers, and my mom and dad always said that they were not going to stop until they had a little girl. So I do have to rub it in a little bit that I am perfection. Mom and dad stopped after me. I was born into a Christian family. I was baptized as a baby. I attended Sunday school, VBS, youth group. While I was growing up, I was very active in the church. When I was in 5th grade, the fire department got a call at a neighbor's house. My dad was on the fire department, so he just ran down there because it was closer than going to the station and then going to our neighbor's house. He figures just some little grease fire or something he could help with. We didn't really hear much, and then my dad came home, and I'll never forget him standing in the doorway of our home, and he just sobbed and sobbed, and I think that's the first time I've ever seen my dad cry. You see, my dad was the first one on the scene to see my friend, my classmate, in the closet with a tie around his neck. We don't know if it was intentional or if it was an accident, but I do remember that was really the first I heard about suicide. My parents talked to us about it, and the words they used that stuck in my head were, "Nothing is ever that bad. Nothing. We can get through anything." And I sure did miss my friend. A funny little story, though. When we were in kindergarten, for show and tell, one day we kissed in front of our class. His mom reminded me of that at the funeral. Skip ahead a few years. In February 1991, I was at Sioux Falls College for a Fully Alive youth event. The Newsboys were playing their concert. And they gave an altar call. And I'd never heard an altar call before. I was like, well, let's see. I got baptized as a child. I went to church all the time. I was confirmed. You mean those things aren't going to just get me into heaven? So I answered that call. On February 12, 1991, I prayed with a lady named Lorraine Birch and asked Jesus to be Lord of my life. I was 16 years old. I cried and I cried after that, and I didn't even know why I was crying. I just sat there and I felt foolish because I'm like, why in the world am I even crying right now? But that stairway in Jeske Fine Arts Center will always be a special place to me. In fact, one of my kids was there on a field trip not very long ago, and I had to take a picture of that and share that with them. The following year, I graduated high school and I went to college. Can you guess where I ended up? If you guessed Sioux Falls College, you are correct. I guess that was definitely a divine appointment that Mary Martha talked about. It was fun to reconnect with Lorraine and thank her for being there that night to pray with me. Another cool divine appointment from my college days was on our freshman retreat. We loaded up a bus, and we headed all the way across the state of South Dakota and ended up at a camp. Any ideas what camp that might be? If you guessed Camp Judson, you are correct. Little did I know how important this place would be to me. After being in college a couple of years, I dropped out. I figured, hey, I can make more money working. I was a social work major, and my dream was to be a chemical dependency counselor. That is a dream I still have to this day. And God recently has been laying it on my heart to go back to college and to finish. So if you all want to pray along with me with that, I would really appreciate that. On February 23rd, 1996, I was set to go on a blind date. I was living with a friend and her children, and I was watching them because her and her boyfriend had run out to get some tacos when my blind date showed up at the door. I was scared to death of him. He had dark glasses on and this big old beard. His name was Kari Carroll. When he showed up, I prayed my friend wouldn't come back because I didn't want to leave with him. That's how scared he looked. I looked at him. On our first date, we went to Frying Pan to have coffee. That was all he could afford. We joked about that later, that we couldn't even afford to have pie that night. I don't really remember our conversation that night, but I do remember him telling me I had the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. That was it. I was done. I was smitten. We dated, and then, fortunately, we moved in together, and then the drinking started by him. Along with the drinking came the abuse. I won't go into the details of that. I will say when things were good, they were really, really good. And when things were bad, they were really, really bad. The abuse was both physical and mental. But he would always apologize and say he was sorry and it would never happen again. And I believed that. Until it would happen again the next time. About 8 months after we started dating, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for a fourth offense DWI. He served 4.5 years of that 5-year sentence. I stayed with him. I loved him. I could change him. When he got out, things were going really well. There wasn't any drinking. And we were raising his children. And one day we were driving back from Pier from visiting his mom, and he looked at me and he says, you know, we should probably just get married. He's so romantic. I was like, yeah. So we went out and we picked out a ring, and it had 9 small diamonds in it. On September 15th, 2001, we were married at Rod's boss's house, Joe and Barbara Fink. They were huge spiritual mentors to us. So it was pretty difficult raising stepchildren, being newly married. Oh yeah, and the drinking and the gambling and the abuse continued. That's okay though, I could still change him, right? Yeah. Once we were married, we tried having children. Month after month, I got my period. I was devastated. Everybody around me was having kids. I was like, hello, God, are you hearing me? Why am I not having children? This is a desire you've given me. So in June of 2006, I had gastric bypass surgery. By July of 2007, I was pregnant. I was so excited. I was finally going to be a real mom. Because you see, step-parents, they aren't real parents, according to the stepchildren and the other mother. But that's a story for a different time. On January 17th, 2008, I started a new job. I was pregnant with my first child, and I would start working for the state of South Dakota. Rod came into my job, and I was so excited because I was like, hey, he came in to surprise me. I was trying to introduce him to everyone, and he told me to go to my cubicle and sit down. I didn't want to, but I finally did. Then, okay, I'm a crier, sorry. He told me my brother had died by suicide a few hours earlier. My first words were, we were taught nothing is ever that bad. This was a very emotional time for me. I was pregnant with my first child. Oh, I got 2. Thanks. Hey, and they match. I was pregnant with my first child, and I just kept thinking, my brother's never going to see my children. He's not going to know my children. But all the relatives assured me that they would know about my brother through our stories and everything that we had to share about him. The life went on, the abuse, the gambling went on, to the point of hoping, I got to the point I was hoping just for physical abuse, not the emotional abuse, because the physical abuse was easier to handle. Once the pain went away, I was okay. The emotional hit a lot harder. That's a very sick thinking of an individual. I was sick. I was the best codependent and enabler I have ever known. Alcoholism is definitely a family disease. On April of 2016, I received a phone call. My uncle died by suicide. I am like, what in the world? No family should ever go through this once, much less twice. So after that, we continued just living our life, and the drinking, the gambling, the abuse, it all continued. I tried to protect my children from it, but I couldn't. But I'm so grateful that God blessed me with those 4 beautiful children. On June 4th, 2018, it started out like any other day. We had just had a rummage sale, and the kids and I were packing everything up to take to Savers and just get it out of the garage. And I knew this was something that would please Rod, because he always like, you're a hoarder, you keep too much stuff. So I did that, and he had spoken to his work, and he decided that he liked it when he felt better, and so they agreed to pay for him to go to anger management. He left that night to go to anger management. The kids and I left that night to go to Savers and drop our stuff off. We tried calling him, no answer. Then we went out and had dinner, still no answer. Got home, sure enough, was at the bar drinking and gambling. He came home that night wanting more money, and I was like, nah, we don't have any money. I don't know where you keep thinking all this money is coming from, but we have none. And then he started yelling, and he said, I'm going to call the police. And I said, why are you going to call the police on me now? Now what did I do? Because I could never do anything right. He's like, nope, I'm calling him on myself. And I was like, okay, whatever. He went outside and was yelling, and I was just trying to get our kids to bed and just go on like any other night. Next thing I know, there was a sheriff knocking on my door. And I answered the door, and he asked if I knew where Rod was. And I said, no. But I looked around. I was like, he's drunk. I don't know where he is. And I saw the light on in the garage. I'm like, oh, he's probably in the garage. The light's on in there. I said, do you want me to go check? He said, no, just go back in the house. So I went back in the house, not thinking anything of it. Figured he passed out somewhere. We live next door to the fire station, and I always knew that the fire department was going out when the traffic on our road would pick up. So I was trying to get my kids to sleep, and I look outside, and I see the firemen's cars going by. I'm like, oh, firemen are going out. Wonder what they're doing. Trucks go by. Trucks stopping right in front of my house. And I was like, what's going on? What's going on? So I left my children inside, and I went running outside, and I saw them doing CPR on my husband. He had attempted suicide. I went back in the house and just held my children. I called my stepchildren and told them they needed to get out there. And so they came out, and they finally got him back to life, hauled him in the ambulance, and I drove like a maniac to that hospital. Please don't tell anybody about the red lights I ran that night. I dropped my kids off at my stepdaughter's house and went up there, and when they finally got him settled, we were told, he's the sickest person in this hospital right now. And that was really hard for us to hear. But he was alive, and so we took that. I sat by his bedside that night. I think I maybe drifted in and out 5-10 minutes. And my stepdaughter was on the other side. But hey, he's going to be okay. We just knew he was going to be okay. We had just started attending church at Church at the Gate in Sioux Falls. And so I didn't really know anyone to call. There was one guy I knew to call. So I called him, and I was like, Roger, I need you to pray, and I need you to pray now. And both Roger and Ayden both came up to the hospital and prayed with us. So as the days went on, they said, we're going to redo all of his brain imaging and everything. And then they came back and told me he had no brain activity. So here I was, 43 years old, with 4 children, and I had to make the decision to pull life support from my husband. It was extremely difficult. But I had made up my mind that we were going to make a positive out of this. And that positive being, we would donate any life, any organs or tissue that we could donate to help someone else to save their loved one. Going back to my brother's death, even though he wasn't found immediately, we found out, they called my parents and they were able to use tissue from him, and he was able to help over 18 people in his death just by the tissue. So that was something that was very important to me because, and let me just say this, if you are not an organ and tissue donor and you want to be, make your wishes known to your family and friends, because they're the ones that are going to have to make that decision if it's not on your driver's license. And the hospital will check your driver's license. So that gave me some peace, not much, but some. I had amazing friends that came and surrounded me around the hospital, just helping me in every which way they can. There was an amazing group in Sioux Falls called Survivors Joining for Hope. They usually help with the funeral, but I needed a new refrigerator because my refrigerator got broke that night. And so they provided me with a new refrigerator. God cares about the little things as well as the big things. So I had to call and get my stepson home. He was in the Army and he was doing some training. Thankfully, his training was done, and so he only missed his graduation to come be with his dad before we had to take him off of life support. So on June 8th, 6 years ago, 2018, they wheeled him into the operating room. We got to go in. I made it so my children could go in first so they could see their dad one more time without all the tubes and wires in him. And then they quickly ushered them out. My stepchildren and I were there when he took his last breath, or so we thought, but being the jokester that he was, he came back and started breathing again. So we did get a couple more minutes with him. I walked into that hospital a married woman, and I walked out a widow, and I didn't know how to do that or what to do or what in the world am I supposed to do at this moment. I would like to say I handled it well, but there was many a times I didn't. There was many times I didn't want to get out of bed. There was many times I snapped at my children. It was not beautiful at all. But God was beautiful through it all. In October of 2021, I believe it was, yes, my 2 oldest were at a youth retreat with Jen and Carissa and TJ, and I don't know who all the other leaders were. And I had the 2 younger ones with me, and we were driving home, and a gentleman pulled right in front of us. And I couldn't stop, and he had run his red light, and we smashed into him. I kind of passed out during that, and then I came to, and my son was sitting there, and he was like, "Mom, I think we should get out of the car." "Hey, buddy, good idea. Let's do that." Because I was in such shock. But I was so grateful that Jen and Carissa and everyone was there for my 2 older ones, because I knew I had to tell them. And I remember telling them, make the girls stay there, because I knew that they were going to want to come be with us. And I said, no, just make them stay there. So after that accident, I had lost my job because I broke my pinky. I know, great injury, huh? But I couldn't do my job. And so I was applying for other jobs, and I saw this job at a church that was looking for clerical, and I'm like, hey, I can do that. Yeah, me one-handed, I can do clerical. So I applied for that job and got a call and was like, we think you'd be a really good fit in our daycare. I'm like, really, daycare? Are you crazy, God? What is this all about? Okay, I'll listen. I will go. So I went and did the interview and got hired on the spot. And to this day, I'm still there. I absolutely love it. I have the best boss ever and the best coworkers. And seeing the kids' smiles every day is just amazing. Throughout all of this, too, I keep seeing God give us signs. This past couple of weeks, I've been in like total panic mode because I had no clue what I was going to say. And I'm just like, I've had a whole year to prepare for this. Let's wait. But when we were at Allison's softball game the other day, the team she was playing would call out their plays by numbers, and they kept calling 0502. Rod's birthday was 5/2. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then the time came for the game to be over. Well, we didn't finish the inning, so we had to go back to the previous inning. So I asked the coach's husband, I was like, hey, what was the score? He's like, we ended at 5-2. We won. Okay, God, I'm hearing you. You're there. God has also spoke to me through music a lot. In 2008, we lost a home to foreclosure. And when we were finally ready to buy another home, we were ready. They said, everything's ready to go. Well, then all of a sudden, there was some very old debt from when my husband was first married. It is his ex-wife that had popped up like $10,000 in debt, and they wanted that debt paid. I'm like, $10,000? How are we going to pay this? We were standing in church one day, and the words of a song came on, nothing formed against you shall stand. And I just looked at him, I said, it's going to be okay. We're going to get that house. This is not going to be held against us. So I was pregnant with Melanie at the time and took 3 kids into the courthouse, met with the commissioners, and somebody kept telling me, don't think that they're going to wipe this debt clean because they'll never do anything like that. They won't do it. I'm like, well, I've got $1,000. They can have that. They settled off that debt for $1,000, and everybody was in awe. They couldn't believe that happened. But that was God. I know that was God. As you can see, all this mental illness that's been running through my family, we've really decided that we want to erase the stigma associated with mental illness. We've done suicide prevention walks. In fact, like I said, we had started attending Church at the Gate maybe 6 months before. The Sunday after Rod died, I was supposed to be there to become a member, but I was not there because we were doing a suicide prevention walk because we thought, that's it, let's just get started on this. Let's make awareness known. Unfortunately, I wish I could say everything has gone great since then. Those of you that know, I have 4 children. My oldest is missing from us this year. She is currently inpatient in Sioux Falls because she had 3 suicide attempts last year. To me, that was even harder to deal with than losing my husband. Is when my child was so hurt and so broken. I felt like such a failure as a mother. But I am happy to say she's doing amazing. She went in February. They told us at that time it was probably be a 12 to 18-month program. They're looking at discharging her in December because she's doing so well. And I just give God all that credit. My daughter Allison has also struggled. She's had a couple stints in Avera Behavioral Health. So it's a really, really difficult thing. And it's a way that Satan attacks our family. Well, a couple years ago, we heard about this crazy camp called CFO. the kids came home and they're like, Mom, we're going to go to church camp. TJ's telling us all about this church camp and we're going to go to the hills. And I'm like, okay, wait, tell me about this. Like, what is this thing? Well, I don't know. We're just going to go. I'm like, okay, but I got to know the details. I don't know. Ask TJ. Well, I'm trying to research CFO and I can't find anything. And I'm like, what is up with this camp? I don't get this. But I'm so grateful we found you guys. The love and support that my family has felt here has been so amazing. You guys are all the hands and feet of Jesus. I don't know how many people have come to me and just said, you know what? I've prayed for you. I've prayed for you. And those are prayers that we covet. Those are prayers that we just love and we need. Sorry, crier here. And if you remember, I said my ring had 9 diamonds in it. With my children and my stepchildren, there was exactly 9 kids. So that was kind of a God thing too. And one of Rod's wishes was that he could always have all 9 of his kids in a room together and get a picture taken. Before he died, we were able to do that. Have all 9 of the children in the room. From way North Dakota to South Dakota and everywhere in between. So that was pretty awesome. But I've been told don't ramble on because we have night missions tonight, so I will not ramble on. But I just want to thank all of you guys for being here, for supporting me, and for listening, because some of the abuse that I did endure was that you're no good, you don't matter, nobody wants to listen to you, you're nothing. And if you guys would have known me 6 years ago, I am not the same person I am today at all. And I give all of that glory to God because he has changed me. And I'm just continue to walk with him every single day. Thank you.
Kari, thank you. You've offered a powerful reminder of the essential role each of us has in helping one another navigate life's hardships. Your inspiring, unwavering hope in Jesus' love and care for you reminds us of the profound importance of simply being there for others.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lamplight, a podcast from CFO North America. It is our mission to lead people in the adventurous pursuit of a transformed life in Jesus. If you know someone who might enjoy today's episode, please share it with them. And if you'd like to learn more about CFO North America, please visit our website, cfonorthamerica.org.